Hi there, it's time for my annual Shonen Jump cover ranking video, which I've done for a few years in a row now. If you'd like to see something similar to this, I have videos going over 2023 and 2024's Shonen Jump covers if you're interested, and this year we'll be doing the exact same thing because it's always quite fun. If you're unfamiliar with what Weekly Shonen Jump is, it's a manga magazine that houses all sorts of very popular manga, notably currently One Piece, Kagurabachi, and Ichi the Witch. There's also countless other big hits from the past as well, like Dragon Ball, Naruto, My Hero Academia, for a smattering of popular things throughout its history. The magazine comes out every single week, and roughly we get about 48 covers since some weeks are double weeks for holidays. Each one also has custom artwork, usually featuring one or more series from the magazine. A lot of other manga magazines, specifically shonen ones, don't always do this either. They sometimes reuse art from other sources or feature models, like actual gravure pretty lady models, and sometimes pretty men too, although that's a bit rarer. So often, Shonen Jump put a lot of effort into their covers, and it's an effort I want to celebrate by looking at all the covers of the year, giving my thoughts on them, why I like them, what artistic elements about them I find interesting, and giving them a letter grade from A to E so you can follow along easily. To quickly run through this subjective and nebulous letter grade scheme. E are for covers that are bad, which you are unlikely to see. The biggest manga magazine in the world doesn't tend to have bad covers, it actually wants you to pick up the magazine and buy it. D signifies covers that don't really spark much interest in me. They might be fine, but I largely find them boring or unnoteworthy. C is for covers that I find okay. They don't stand out too much, but are overall solid. B is for covers that I'd consider good, having strong color choices, compositions, or other strong aspects. Most covers should be in this category. And then we have A, which signifies covers that are strong in multiple areas, seeing unity throughout all of its art aspects. They ultimately stand out the most, they're the most interesting, the most fun, and usually they have some kind of gimmick which I really like. And that's the general gist of things. Now that you know my criteria, let's not waste any time and jump into the first cover of the year. So for issue 1, we have a Kagurabachi cover, and this one is really striking, very cool. Initially, we have the 3 characters. We have Chihiro, we have Hakuri, and Chiyuki. They are all wearing kind of modern streetwear kind of clothing, I think. I'm not super into fashion, but I think it's streetwear. Like, you have all of these pockets and little bangles and things just coming off of their clothing. You have high collars and little belts and things everywhere. If you've played or are familiar with like cyberpunk, I think this is very similar. I think techwear also might be a kind of similar thing, although this looks a bit less techy. It has some inspirations, maybe more rooted in traditional kind of Japanese feudal elements. Maybe not feudal, but you see a lot of kanji on little cloth wrappings. There's some rope that Chihiro has, although that just might be around his sword there. So it's kind of blending a modern aesthetic with an older one, which I think is pretty cool. As for colors, Kagurabachi is always pretty much rocking its black, red, and white color scheme, with some yellow being used here as accents. This is a color scheme I've seen a lot of criticism of over time. Thankfully, that has died down. It is just a cool color scheme. I do understand you may want kind of more variety from it, but it has its aesthetic, it has its angle, and it runs with it, and it runs with it well. And I think this is proof of it because the cover here is very striking. How it's used as well in the background is quite interesting because it's not just flat colors. You have a kind of screen tone pattern going on with the black and white kind of squares, but it also shifts as well into other patterns. And then you even have some kind of either kanji or like fire being made in the back. It's not super visible, but it is there, and it adds an interesting texture to the background of this cover. The typography as well is pretty cool for, I assume Kagurabachi is what it's saying there. With the yellow text in the foreground, the red in the background, that's pretty sick. The general composition as well of how the characters are just there is very cool. Chihiro looking kind of regal but chill, sitting down in a nice chair, and then you have Chiyuki has a really nice pose, kind of draping over. You really get a sense of her personality, as well as Hakuri, who is a bit more kind of stood up. He is trying to be a bit more polite, which suits his character as well. I also just love these characters, so seeing them in more casual wear, which is really cool, just makes me happy. It's a really nice cover. I would probably give this one an A. It's a really strong one to start off the year with. And for issue 2, we go to another really cool cover. Immediately, the vibes here are strong. Roboco tends to have a bit of a mixed bag when it comes to covers. They can be really fun. This is one of the more fun ones, giving a, I don't know, Reservoir Dogs-esque cover, a kind of mafia gang cover, or even drawing from like boy band imagery. It is simple, which fits. The artwork is very big with the characters, but also the background design isn't as complex as the last one. It's still quite interesting though, because it's not the same black as is on the characters, but you have this kind of dark, almost brown, mixing with a yellow, this kind of caution combination, and it's kind of sprayed. You have a kind of paint spatters there, giving a kind of danger look or caution. Again, kind of street feeling. Perhaps that's the overall theme for this year's covers, just based on these two. Again, we have black, white, red, and yellow being predominant colors. Luffy is taking up an extreme amount of real estate in the top right, which is always fun to see. The actual characters here look really good. Roboco's face looks a tad off, but I do like the expression she has, and she's kind of picking up the glasses. The real standouts are Bondo, Gachi Gorilla, and Matsuo though. The way they're drawn is really solid. Usually Robocop can be a little loose because it is a gag manga in how they're drawn, but the illustrations for these three here look really cool, really strong. Their expressions are very stern, especially Bondo kind of pulling his hat down there. I really like that. Gorilla just kind of looking effortlessly kind of cool with a hand behind his head there. This is, again, a really strong one. The criteria aren't the most kind of stringent thing in the world, and maybe I'll change my mind, but I think I'm going to give this one an A. This one is another really cool one. And then back to back, 3 great covers. We have a cover for Ichi the Witch, which is a cover very early in its run. I believe it might be chapter 8 or something. They're really pushing Ichi, and for good reason. It's amazing. This one is a tour de force of color, and it's so expressive. It's so just explodes from the center. You have Ichi's face, and then everything comes outward. Unlike a lot of other covers, actually, this one feels a lot more like the illustration can breathe, because you kind of don't. There's no elements blocking the majority of the image. You have a lot of the little illustrations that show what other series are getting color pages or features, but they aren't kind of blocking the sides. And you see the lightning effects all around Ichi. You see the light all around Ichi. So it makes this cover feel like it's allowed to breathe a lot more than other ones. So it gives it a very unique vibe, I feel, compared to a lot of other Jump covers. And that background I mentioned is beautiful. The lightning is a mix of different colors. You have some red, you have some kind of beige almost, and then white as well, just crackling out everywhere. And you have the starry sky. And the colors chosen complement Ichi as well, I think. You have his red and kind of starry eyes. You have his kind of navy coat and hat, and his hair's kind of black as well. I feel like it all blends together well color-wise. It's also bordered by the Weekly Shonen Jump logo and the Ichi the Witch logo in red. That kind of symmetry between the kind of two titles there, that's kind of nice as well. I think it bolsters the image, and it really forces you to look in the center where you see Ichi with his knife and his eyes predominantly. I think it sells the fantasy of the series, the just magic it has really well. It's such a good cover. I'm gonna give this one another A. It's so good. And then we reach our first group cover of the year, issue 4-5. And we're spoiled again. This is another amazing cover. Now, the group covers tend to be some of the best of the year because they're always fun. This time we have this kind of plushy sticker theme. I think it does have a specific name, but I'm not overly familiar with it. You also get like stickers of all of these. It actually says on the cover there. And these are some nice stickers to have too. They're very cute. There is so much to just look at here because there's so many different characters who got stickers. The One Piece ones are really, really cute because they're more felt feeling. They have this nice textile kind of texture, and they look squeezable, they look fluffy, really, really like that. And then you have a range of different styles being used for the other characters here. Some of my favorite are the Kagurabachi ones. Hakuri and Chihiro look really, really cute there. The blue box ones as well look very kind of squishy and squeezable. The Witch Watch ones really nice. Kyoshi in the bottom right there as well. Very, very cute. I could kind of go on for every single character really. The variety of art on display here is really nice. As well, we have the text to consider, the typography, which is also matching the theme. You have the kind of the seam lines, the knitted lines around all the letters. They're colorful, they're different sizes. The patterns also extend to the background as well, making this a very colorful, a very fun cover. And its theme, I feel, is very well realized. And for that, I have to give it an A. It's a very, very nice cover. Then we reach our second group cover of the year, issue 6-7, which tonally is completely different. The last one was very cute and comfy. This one is kind of epic, having a lot of darker colors, but it's also very kind of resplendent. It's very regal and epic. You have characters in more of an action pose, more of a like triumphant pose. It's very much I think this might be kind of the start of the year cover along with the last one. And it has the vibes of like, this is a new year, we're going to go at it with everything we've got. It really comes across that way. Partially why is because you have this momentum coming from the center. You have a big bang and a literal explosion behind Luffy. And the speed lines rushing off into the corners of the magazine. Also, again, kind of starry aesthetic like the Ichi cover we had. So it's like we're exploding through space. And then all the characters are exploding from the center, from Luffy as well. Typography for the logo, the texture used is gold and shiny. You have the big shine on the left. Again, it gives this one a level of importance. Everything is shiny, everything is kind of special almost. The colors used, the purple for the shading, you have a deeper blue purple. It contrasts well with the red accents and colors on the text, and you have this red glow around the characters too. So we're going for some nice just overall color contrast there. Some of the illustrations for the characters are very, very cool as well. Luffy looks pretty cool. Sakamoto has a really strong one. Akane's kind of doing her thing there. I wonder how many of these are original for this. I think they all are, I would wager. The Andy one I really like on the top left. Top right. The Chojo as well is very understated. It's not too detailed, but it's very cool and blends in with this cover really well with his aura he's flying off. On the left side, lower down, we have Kyoshi looking really cool. We have Taiyo. So many characters. The biggest one that stands out though is Roboco, kind of behind everyone, which has spawned into the classic fuck the big three, it's just the big me meme. So that gives this cover points as well. I also like how big Roboco is. Roboco is kind of the same size as Chihiro and Sakamoto. Possibly it's kind of coming off of seniority. That's why Roboco is so big. Maybe they thought it was funny that she was also that big and behind everyone else as well. I think it adds an element of subtle comedy to this cover. That's really cool. Am I gonna give this one like the fifth A in a row? Yeah, hell yeah I am. This cover's also amazing. Back to back, non-stop bangers. Then we go to issue 8 of the year and we calm down a bit. We have a wintry cover here that, despite it being wintry themed, despite there being little kind of frost symbols everywhere, and you have the kind of warm breath from Shinetsu and Taiki, it's quite warming overall, partially because of the color scheme of kind of this orange and red kind of accented here and there, and yellow. This I feel would be a good transitionary cover from autumn to winter maybe. Some of the vibes feel a bit autumny, which I'm not sure that should be the case, but the kind of warm, the temperature here the kind of warm, cold contrast is quite interesting. I kind of like that idea being played around with. Some other interesting things are how the featured series are represented. They are in little kind of icicle symbol boxes if you look at them close enough. And it fits well as well because they kind of fit in with the kanji in a very natural way. There's a subtlety to how they've made them, which I really like. The illustrations of the two as well are cute. It's simple. The coloring is quite nice. They look very cozy. They fit in very well. They kind of stand out, kind of running towards where we are. It is a solid cover. It's not as good as the last few, I think, but it is very interesting. It has its own aesthetic and idea which it's going for, which doesn't happen with all the covers. It's usually the group covers that do stuff like this, but this one attempted to have a little theme, which I really like. So I'm gonna give this one a solid B. And we move on to issue 9 next, which I'm not a fan of Elusive Samurai overall, but this cover is very, very nice. And what sticks out to me most initially is the overall composition of it, of how it's less front on and it's more kind of left leaning. It's heavier on the left side with I think it's Takayuki. I confuse some of the characters because they do look kind of similar, but I don't know why you'd put another character on the cover other than Takayuki. His parasol is taking up the top left, which is giving this one a really interesting flow where it's cutting off the top part. You kind of focus down on Takayuki. I find that very interesting. He has been kind of outlined with white as well to make him a bit easier to see. And then it gives this draping effect, which is aided by the wisteria coming down on the left side. And then you have wisteria in the background as well. I really like the use of that. One, because the color really pops. It's a nice, pleasant purple, kind of lilac. Yeah, it's a really pleasant purple there. Wisteria as well as a plant is very important to Japan, I think, from memory. I think it's Fuji is what they call it. I think has connections to royalty, which makes sense. It's purple kind of coloration. And also kind of the old traditions, maybe old world, fits well with Elusive Samurai. The colors as well match Takayuki's colors, his eyes, his kind of undercoat, kimono, whatever he's wearing there. And his hair is also kind of slightly on the purpler end. And then to contrast with that, or to harmonize with that, we have red as well. Another kind of passionate, slightly regal color, giving this overall cover a nice royal feeling. I'm not sure, I'm guessing the I forget the character with the fox mask. I'm guessing that's Elusive Samurai with a few different objects which I'm slightly unfamiliar with, but they do add into the more traditional culture feel of this cover, and which connects to Elusive Samurai really well. The illustration of Takayuki as well is very nice. It's this kind of pensive glance he's giving. It's not an action-packed cover, it's a quieter cover. It's a very beautiful cover, actually. And that isn't something you always get with jump covers, so I do really like that. The typography again is very appropriate. We have these little boxes with the kanji in. They might have a proper name, I'm unfamiliar, but you will see them in a lot of older Japanese artwork, I seem to remember. And just the style of font overall is very reminiscent of older things or more traditional things, I think. So yeah, this is another really strong cover. Does it quite match the first few? I think it's like almost there actually. Do you know what? Maybe I will give this one an A. I think the color and the use of the wisteria and the overall layout of this one feels very unique and special to me. So yeah, giving it an A. For issue 10, we have Ember's debut cover. And like a lot of covers this year, I feel like the art is allowed to breathe a bit more. We kind of really get to see the full illustration pretty much here. As for the actual colors on display here, this one feels a little less solid than many of the last ones. Starting out, we have the main image of Haitani there. He has a bit more of a desaturated profile, although red is pretty prominent, and you also have his yellow/orange hair, which is that all works together fine. Then you start to branch out. You have the red jump logo with the yellow. You have the orange Embers logo. That can work fine. We have a kind of fiery, passionate, warm color scheme. And then you also have kind of yellow red on the side there in a different font again. You start to add red and blue, and then, or blue purple. This blue purple with the one piece with the green, and there's some other green here and there as well. And things start to get a little lost for me color wise. It's not as harmonious as the others. It doesn't look bad by any means, but it doesn't hit the high heights the others do color wise. Also the typography, the way it's laid out as well, isn't as interesting or clever as the other ones either. So I kind of feel like we've been spoiled a bit by the last several covers. The illustration though, I do like. Haitani looks cool. It could be better though, I think, in hindsight. I don't know how much it says about him as a character. You do have his Gakuran, his school outfit draped over him, and then his sock outfit on the other side, I think. So that kind of clues you into the dynamic of his character of delinquent and soccer player, football player I should be saying, as someone from the UK. Something different could have worked. I like the illustration overall, but I think this one, I'm being pretty, it sounds like I'm not enjoying this one as much. Do I give it a D? Is it that boring? I don't think it's boring. I think it's a C. I think it's fine. I do kind of like it, but it has missteps, I think. It could be better. Then we go into our next new manga. For issue 11, we have the Star of Beethoven cover, which is a lot, actually. The first thing that stands out is Yasuo at the bottom, with the piano curving around the bottom. I think that's really interesting. It gives this a different kind of feel to it because of how it's structured at the bottom there, and it's curving around Yasuo. It pushes your sight up to kind of look at Yasuo, and then you have the ray of light coming down, the kind of stage light or light of God or whatever, going down onto Yasuo as well, further making him the main focal point here, with his hands tapping away at the keys. Behind him then you have Beethoven, who looks really creepy. Yeah, I think that's pretty interesting. Like, if you saw this for the first time, you'd be like, what is that Beethoven? Like, what is this about? Then you have the background elements, which there's a lot of effects going on. There's kind of some little dust motes and shinies. There is musical kind of scripture kind of flying about, which clues you into what the manga is all about. There's also some kind of photo frames. I think it is a famous photo of Beethoven, I'd imagine, is what it is, but he's being covered up. Just the way the colors in the background is structured, and maybe the light from above, it does give me this vibe that we're in a almost like godly place, a religious place, like a chapel, the Sistine Chapel or something, or in a famous religious painting. It is a lot though. As well. It might be a bit too busy with how much is going on. The text is a little all over the place. It's kind of hard to see the featured manga. There's a lot of different textures going on. You kind of have some gold text, you have some red text. The Star of Beethoven B is a very different font from some of the rest of it, and you have the One Piece font up there as well. There might be slightly a bit much going on, but it is pretty fun. I think I'm gonna give this one a C still. I don't think it quite reaches the level the blue box cover has. It's not as solid. I do think it's better than the Embers one a bit though, but not by tons and tons. The illustration of Haitani on the Embers one I thought was a little stronger than maybe Yasuo and Beethoven here, but this one is slightly more interesting. It just doesn't quite reach the next level though, because it's a bit messy. Then we reach issue 12, which is a Witch Watch cover for its 4th anniversary. This one has some nice colors initially. The purple, pink, kind of orange, yellow, magic feeling color scheme that Ichi kind of had earlier is here. Although this is going for a circusy vibe, I feel almost. That's kind of the feeling I get with the Moi's hat there and his overall shiny outfit. It's very celebratory. There is, I think, confetti kind of coming down. You have, they're not speed lines, but the kind of lights The kind of pattern coming from the center there is quite nice. And then the checkerboard pattern at the bottom feels very Alice in Wonderland-y, maybe, very fantastical. So it's selling its vibe really well here, I think. The way manga are featured here as well is quite nice. You have Ichi the Witch and Star Beethoven in both corners. They have this bordering, which is quite cool. Around them, so it's integrated into the cover in a nice way. The illustration overall of Nico and Moi as well is cute. They look quite well drawn, they're quite fun. They have a special outfit for this occasion, for their anniversary. They're holding up kind of staves and not wands. Kind of interesting. Again, very regal gold. The textures are really shown off well here, I think, in various ways. You even have a kind of gold trim on the title of Witch Watch there as well, which I really like. This doesn't quite pop as much as some of the US covers of the year, but I think it is more solid than the last two debut covers, so I would give this one a B. Akane Banashi is next for issue 13, and we have Akane kind of riding the wave. We have some homages to classic Japanese paintings, I believe Hokusai there with the big wave, and also probably Mount Fuji in the background. Very, very cool. The pattern on Akane's kimono is very evocative, very colorful, with the blues, the yellows, the pinks there. She's kind of exploding out of everything, and I really like that. The colors are quite heavy here. They're very varied. They work quite well though. They aren't quite as harmonious as some of the other covers we've had. There is quite a lot going on here, but it works maybe a bit better than the Embers cover, because I feel like it being colorful is part of the charm overall here. The illustration of Akane as well, I like. She has a strong sense of determinism. Her expression overall, her eyes are very piercing, forward facing. She's giving a kind of yell, her teeth kind of bared, but she's not like angry or anything. It's determined and pointing forward with her fan. I really like that, and the energy this has. The mix it has of kind of traditional paintings, very fitting for Akane Banashi, which is, of course, tackling the subject of Rakugo, a very old, traditional medium. So, for all of those reasons, I think this one ends up getting a B for me as well. It's another really solid one. Not the best ever, probably on the lower end of B if I was ranking them kind of one by one, but I'm not. We're just going to move on. Then we reach chapter 14, which is Sakamoto Days. This one's a really nice one. The colors immediately are quite welcoming. We kind of have a painting or almost graffiti theme going on. I really like the sprays of everything, and again, it's been integrated into the text on the sides and on the Sakamoto logo as well. We also have some announcements for like the TV anime and some other things, and it's been done in this kind of sign fashion, which is the secondary kind of theme going on here. Sakamoto's holding a sign there. We have the bottom right corner, we have kind of some signage there as well, giving this another street kind of feel, which I like. And of course we have a crossing in the background too. Really like how they've integrated everything together here. It's very pleasant, especially on the eyes with the colors. It's colorful but not overly colorful. The illustration of Sakamoto and Shin does feel slightly off, but it's quite charming as well. Shin's eyes are insanely big. I don't remember them being that big. It's also partially the angle we're looking at them, kind of from on high, diagonally downwards, which I quite like. The background as well helps sell that effect quite well. There's a lot to really love about this cover. I don't think it quite reaches the A tier for me. It doesn't have quite the level of impact as some of the first ones we covered, so I'm gonna give this one a really solid B. For issue 15, we have another Ichi the Witch cover, and it's Ichi and the World Hater Magic, kind of split down the middle. We have a good, nice color contrast of red and blue, although it does feel a bit more top heavy. I guess that makes sense as Ichi is the protagonist. There's also less room if you consider the Shonen Jump logo needs to kind of be there. The hands on the top are interesting. You have the kind of skull hands for the World Hater Magic, and then you have a black purple hand with red nails and some golden claws. I think they're Uroro's hands. I'd have to go back and check. I'm guessing Aurora has a kind of gauntlet or some kind of golden hand, unless it's two of Ichi's magics and I'm not thinking correctly. The illustrations of both characters are quite nice. You have them facing opposite directions, which is cool as well. They kind of sell that this is a kind of versus cover. That said, I feel like it could be a bit better. I'm not sure quite how. There's something about it. It doesn't feel as dynamic as maybe it should be to me, though I do think it's quite interesting just with how it's been constructed, how it's been split down the middle. I do like Ichi holding his knife there as well in the direction of the title / the split. The hands bordering around as well look quite cool. I just feel like there's something missing. There's a lack of maybe harmony or something here, which I can't quite put my finger on, but it is still a very good cover, which I would give a B. Then we reach issue 16, which is a blue box cover for its 4th anniversary, and you have Taiki and Chinatsu in a nice getup. Not as cool as Nico and Moi though, it's pretty subdued. The colors here are a little all over. You have the kind of more desaturated colors for the main two here, with blue being the main focus, which makes sense considering the series. And then the background is quite nice as well. You have some red, green, yellow, blue, a bit of a mix, but it is desaturated, which I like. It's soft, it's cozy, fits the series quite well. Then the typography kind of, I think, lets it down a little bit maybe. It is striking, it probably makes it easy to read. It just doesn't connect with me. It doesn't fit very well here, I think. It kind of takes too much away from the softness that was there originally, and it doesn't feel as congruous as some of the other ways it has been integrated. I do like the text in the middle of Taiki and Chinatsu, the way it's being colored in a softer way, and you have this darker navy color as well for some of the text. If it had more of that, if that was maybe bigger, I wonder what that would look like. I feel like it might work a bit better for this cover and just give it this nice softer vibe overall, which is being slightly ruined. The actual illustrations of Taiki and Chinatsu as well aren't as fun or comfy as the earlier cover too, so for that I think I'm going to give this one a C. It is fine, but it could be much better. Then we reach issue 17, which is a One Piece cover, which is in stark difference to the last one. It kind of pushed me back a bit when I switched over to this one. The instant kind of color I get is yellow and red, I think. They're the main ones. You have this black and yellow kind of danger, streets, kind of urban feel to it, I guess. Although the getup the characters are wearing are anything but that, being more Viking coded for the Elbaf arc. Even though there's a lot of colors going on here, they've been segmented in a really cool way, with Luffy's red being more closer to the bottom, the yellow helmet matching and connecting to Zoro's green and the title in a very harmonious way. So you've got some green there, and then Loki's purple kind of coming in between them slightly and on the right. It feels good, it feels quite harmonious. You have these pockets of color and they all work together well as well. I think the yellow, green, red and purple, those four together end up looking really nice. It's also quite a fun cover. All the characters have smiley expressions, although Loki I guess is slightly more deranged. There is a danger to this cover. It's kind of exciting but also fun. We haven't also had an action cover for a bit too, and this one sells it quite well. The jaggedness of the background, you kind of have this spiked approach, and then you have swords and horns as well. There's a spiky kind of sub-theme going on maybe here, which fits the more action-orientated design too. That's something I like as well. I think the typography as well, how it's very bubbly, it's coming down with the characters too. The white typography there, that also looks quite fun. I think it's helping to border the images a bit, to lead your eye downwards and also segment the images a bit more. So I think it's a quite well realized cover. Not quite as striking as some of the initial ones we covered again though, and we really got spoiled at the beginning of the year, so this one I'm gonna give a B. Up next is issue 18, which is a Witch Watch cover. This one is pretty nice. The colors of the background are a little all over the place, giving a racing theme, I think. I think the two are wearing kind of racing jackets, or maybe some other sport jackets, but it's the checker pattern and the overall colors, how they've been patched together. It does make me think of like rally driving or just Formula 1 for whatever reason. Perhaps that's the intent. The coolest thing about this, I think, are the patches Nico and Moi are wearing. which represent the other characters who aren't here. They're all very well designed. A lot of care has gone into representing these characters just through a patch. They convey their namesakes as well as vibe and connection to whatever creature or thing they are quite well. The posing as well of the characters I really like. Moi's action focused kind of pose there, he looks quite cool, and then Nico just being really cute in the background back to back with Moi. It's very fun, very reflective of their relationship within the series. I don't think the overall theme is quite clear to me. I guess it's patches, which maybe fits in with the overall kind of viewers kind of street sub-theme. I'm pretty sure that is a thing Shonen Jump does. They kind of have a yearly idea for the covers, so that's maybe what they're going for. I'm not sure this one stands out too well, but the overall illustrations and some of the little details here really make this one a bit better than it is initially. Though I think I'm gonna give it a B actually. The patches are just too cool, and I think the Nico illustration there is too much fun not to give it that. An idea was attempted here, maybe not the best, but the kind of center core of it is pretty strong. Moving on to issue 19, we have a One Piece TV cover. Pretty low-key for One Piece, it's more of a silly one, where we have Gear 5 Luffy on top of a TV. Very cartoony, quite fun. The background is reflective of that too, with a lot of stars and different moving, melding shapes, checker patterns, different colors. Very colorful, but quite congruous. It works quite well, I think. It's a very abrasive, cartoony cover, but it works. The different typography as well, it's squashing and stretching around Luffy, which is fun, but simultaneously it kind of borders him to make your eyes focus on him a bit more. I also really like that the weekly jump part is rainbow. You also have some of the kind of top One Piece TCG advertisement thing. There is a very Americanized cartoony bubble with screen tone in the middle. I like the effort that's gone into making that work with the cartoon vibes of this cover. It's a really fun one. It's not quite as impressive as some of the best of this year, but I would give it a B. I think it sticks to its cartoon roots quite well, and the overall image is quite fun. For issue 20, we have another Roboco cover. This is for her movie. So we have Roboco filming stuff with her Roboco camera. And there's some nice little details here, like Nyonta on the camera itself. Also, Nappa is mentioned there in little text as well. Little gag there. She is, of course, taking a picture of Roboco herself, which is a little gag that's been integrated into the cover, which I like. Then you have the other characters, all chibi, doing different roles. At least most of them are. I'm not sure what Matsuo is doing, he's just fixing his hair up. But they add another little charming element to this cover, which is nice. For the background, we have kind of a red draped cloth, very theatrical and appropriate considering this is for a movie. What might let this one down is the typography doesn't quite evoke much of anything to me. The colors are fine. The red and blue, perhaps being substituted with a different color could work better, although it's not the worst I've seen from this year at all. Another thing they could have done is maybe make the featured series a bit cooler. They have tried to do a thing where it shows stars around them, perhaps like their featured actors. I feel like they could have pushed a bit more to make that more obvious or more interesting. This is again quite a solid cover. At first glance, I was going to give it a C, but actually there's enough little things going on here. There's enough effort to put in that make this one quite fun to look at, so I'm going to give it a B. Up next, we have issue 21, which is the Nice Prison debut cover. Okay, this one is, okay, you have Nice Prison, you have the main character running towards the center. That works, that's fine. Then you have some of his lackeys, who are at the bottom, or just some other random prisoners as they turn out to be, who aren't especially relevant to the story at all. And then you have all these jump characters. And one thing I mentioned at the very beginning of this video is Shonen Jump tends to not reuse artwork for their covers. This one has a lot of reused artwork. I'm guessing because the author just didn't draw enough, or I guess it didn't look good enough, where they felt they had to fill in the rest with other Shonen Jump characters, which can work. It does give me the initial Roboco character cover vibes where all of the Jump characters are kind of represented, although Roboco redrew all of those characters, and as a series it's a very referential one that holds Jump in high esteem. Nice Prison didn't really do any of that. The vibe I got from this cover was Nice Prison would maybe feature more gags relevant to Jump, but it did not. So I think this cover gives a bad impression of what the series actually is, and if you remove all of this kind of reused art, it would be a pretty bland cover probably. There isn't actually much going on. The background, it has a few speed lines in various colors, that's kind of it. The coolest thing about it maybe is how Nice Prison at the bottom is kind of front shadowed. Does give it quite a bit of nice momentum. I also like the handcuff for the O in the Nice Prison, but otherwise that's it. I don't think this cover is very good. There's some things going for it, like it does have the momentum. There is an idea here about the prison. It just feels kind of marred with the reuse of the characters. They just don't fit in. It isn't congruous because they weren't designed to be there in the first place. I will probably give this one an E, which might be harsh, but it just has some very big missteps, and the whole idea that it made me think the series would be one thing, but it ended up being something else. That, I guess, is partially on me, but when you see a series debut cover, it should give you an impression of what the series is going to be about a bit more, and this gave me a bit of a wrong impression, so that's definitely a misstep. Thankfully, the next cover, issue 22-23, is a lot more fun, being gamer focused. A bit more modern, I guess, as a concept, which fits in with the kind of street casual theme of the year maybe. I'm really stretching that theme as we go throughout the year. So mainly we have a few series represented, the biggest at the time. We have Luffy, Sakamoto Days, Luffy, One Piece. We have Blue Box with Chinatsu, we have Chihiro with Kagurabachi, Nico with Witch Watch, and Ichi from Ichi the Witch, and they're all gaming. Having illustrations of these characters holding different gaming pads and wearing headphones is a lot of fun. It's not something I ever expected. I think that's pretty cool, like illustration wise. Very clever, very fun theme. This theme is further expanded on through some really cool ways. You have pixel art of all of the characters in Jump. Very, very fun, very unique. On its own, I don't think it works super well. I think it might not look too great. I guess it would depend on how many pixels you have. But this acts as an accent to this already illustrated idea with the full illustrations. So it ends up adding a lot, I think. It's nice to look at your favorite series and see like, oh, they got a little pixel art. Nice Prison gets a slight redemption here where they've integrated it into the Weekly Shonen Jump logo by putting it into a little gap where they put the character behind bars. I think that's very fun. Speaking of the Jump logo as well, we have a lot of this pixelated, blocky effect within the logo, which looks really nice and it sells this tech vibe. It also is quite harmonious with the lines in the logo that feel very neon. It feels like a little neon sign you could buy. You might know what I mean, like the kind of outlined light fixtures you can kind of buy of various things, characters or words or whatever. Yeah, this one is a really fun cover, and I feel like they've done everything right up to the little text boxes by the series, feeling like they're from video games. The typography, the colors, just how it's been constructed is aiming to be this fun video game thing, and they executed it well, so I'm gonna give it an A. Okay, and now we've reached issue 24, which for a debut cover I think is spectacular. Firstly, you have the main illustration of Ota, who just looks great holding his big sword. One of the cool things here is the reflection in the sword of all the monsters, the liches, or the Draga, I think he's going to fight. His actual kind of color scheme is very cool. The red, yellow, and blue works really, really well here, and the fact that the kind of brush strokes, the pen strokes, are so visible, it gives it a quality that's kind of energetic. it's a bit messy, and I don't know, the art just really gets to shine, but then it's bolstered by the typography, which not only is swirling around him in a way that frames Ota, but it also feels like the energy, the wind is kind of swooshing around him, like he's going to do a big slash with his sword. You have the sparks of embers kind of flying off. There's some scribbles here and there, and then you have the kind of effects of the typography. It is bright and molten like fire, which is important for the setting a character. And to contrast that, the Jump logo is cracked, shiny ice. Very cool contrast. You have visual color contrast, you have temperature contrast, you have elemental contrast between fire and ice. The fire explosion extends to the background. The purple and blue contrast really well with the red and yellow of the whole thing, making this an extremely standout cover, I think. It tells you that this is a new action series, that it's going to be fantastical, that there's going to be fire and ice. It just looks really, really cool too. I can't not give this one an A. It's definitely getting that A tier. Very, very cool debut cover. Then we have Sakamoto Days for issue 25, and this is another brilliant cover, seeing Sakamoto fight Usui, I think, and the contrast again is kind of the name of the game here, but here we have magenta and kind of mint cyany color scheme. It's very nice. It's very evocative. They're on a kind of pitch black background, which again, the yellow has been brought back for that black and yellow. And you have the kind of spray paint kind of scheme going on too, by the Sakamoto Days logo in the background. It really helps it stand out. It gives it a little bit of a theme. The main highlight though, I think, is the illustration of the two, the colors and shading used, the way you have the kind of darker light, the kind of pink light on Sakamoto's back, and then the yellow kind of coming at his front. Very, very nice. Conveys a sense of opposition between the two, which they clearly have because they both have knives and they're coming for each other. Bit of a darker cover as well in tone, but also with the colors. I really, really think it's quite strong though. Is it as good as some of the other really good ones of the year? It may not be my favorite compared to the rest of them, but I do think it's really strong. I think this might end up being some people's favorite cover of the year, so I'm probably going to give it an A. This is another really strong one. There is some kind of, I guess, lack of space being used, which is being used to kind of advertise the Sakamoto Days volume. I guess some considerations could be made to make the featured series kind of fit in a bit more, but the illustration and color is so strong here, it has to have an A, I think. For issue 26, we have a One Piece cover again, and it's another fun One Piece cover with Sanji, Chopper, and Luffy in a little car together. Very Toriyama feeling. You have some stickers on the car, which is quite fun. Race or die, no rules. They're on a little road, talking about the One Piece TV, I guess anime, maybe show again. Background, you have a little, I guess, American style thing. The sky is there. It looks like there's some JJK stickers or some art done by Oda maybe for some event there in the top right. I just mentioned Netflix actually as well. The One Piece typography as well is quite cool. It's been split between the car. I kind of like that. This one is just really fun. It's bubbly. There is an idea from Oda. Even the way the actual Jump logo is colored feels a little more cartoony and bubbly looking at it. It's got a slight shine. That's pretty cool too. The only issue I have with it is it just doesn't feel as cool or as fun. It doesn't kind of have a strong theme like some of the other color covers we've gone through, but the illustration itself is quite strong. So I'm gonna give it a B, I think. It is a fun cover at the end of the day. For issue 27, we have another Ichi the Witch cover, and this one is another really good one, having a lot of shininess to it, with Ichi grabbing these magic gems, and then the Ichi the Witch logo as well as reflected of that too, being shiny and crystalline itself. The characters coming at the viewer at the screen, I guess, is quite cool. Ichi kind of grabbing forward. You have Komugi right behind with her hat falling off, is very cute, and Descaris looking really cool in the background. The color profile of this one is really nice. The blue makes it feel very fresh. It fits in with the crystals, I guess, as well, because it feels kind of icy, but more in a refreshing way. I really like how they've bordered the Shonen Jump logo at the top too, with the blue, pink, purple. That color scheme fits Ichi really well. It's very magical, very kind of special. I guess traditionally you'd call this kind of girly, but it doesn't feel that way. It's very attractive. It's very nice to look at and shiny, and it fits the gems that are being grabbed by Ichi there. There's something covetous about it, like you want this, if that makes sense. It's a very nice cover. The illustrations again of all three I think are very strong, and how they've been placed as well I think is quite nice. The typography in general for the Ichi the Witch logo is cool. I think all the colours blend in nicely, and how they featured the series is again quite cool, putting them in little gems, which I love to see that being done. I think this is another A tier cover. This is a really strong one, very fun, definitely something I would love to have kind of on the shelf. It's a very nice cover. Next up, we have issue 28 for Ultimate Exorcist Kyoshi's first anniversary cover. Congratulations, Kyoshi, you managed to last a year. It's a cool one too. You have Kyoshi looking sick there with his rings, pointing at the viewers there, or maybe kind of signifying a 1. You have some other characters as well. Akari, I think her name is. What's she doing here? She barely does anything for the story. Get her out of here. Put Jack Joe in the front. Kyoshi fans know what's up. I'm glad we do have Jack Joe, Nihan in the background there, because they're quite cool. Believe this must have been maybe around the end of the Black Parade arc then, with these characters being around. Other than that, we have a big cross in the background, which is appropriate for Kyoshi, with some kind of lightning coming off of it. It's quite nice. I think the colors overall are also quite good, with red and yellow being central, and then purple. It makes sense why Akari is so prominent then, because the color kind of works quite well together, the purple and red. It does look nice. The overall, I guess, type is fine, I think. I do like how they put some of the text in the cross itself. The colors are pretty harmonious. It's pretty solid overall. It's not blowing my brain, but for a first anniversary cover, it is solid. So I'm gonna give it a B, I think. Moving on to another new debut, we have issue 29 with Harukaze Mound's Beginning. It's quite nice. You have Nagiharu and Aokaze. You have Nagiharu and you have Aokaze. Together, they have the blue and the red. You instantly know it's a baseball series because they're holding baseballs. You also see them in separate colored kind of jerseys / uniforms, so you know they're going to be on different teams. So already it's giving you some information about the series. The general colors are also quite nice, mainly focusing on the blue aspect, which works. It's youthful. I think it fits the sports. There's bits of red as well. I think that is nice. It kind of complements the two having the red and blue colors. The green as well, I think is okay. Eventually it does end up being a little much, I think. The colors could be tuned a little bit better, but the green as well works, I guess. There's some blades of grass flying around. It feels appropriate for a sports series overall. It isn't the strongest one. It doesn't feel as congruous as Ota, but it does have a nice vibe overall. I think it's an okay debut cover, so I'm gonna give this one a B. Then for issue 30, we have the next debut, which is for Kaeregami, and I am extremely biased because I love this manga despite its cancellation. The illustration for Ko and Chio is beautiful. The way they're there together, very nice. It gives you a sense of the characters, I guess. Ko being kind of a nice boy. He's smiling. He does have a sword though, so he's gonna fight things. And then Chio looks a lot more mysterious, being masked. She has a very sinister smile and eyes, showing there is more to her than meets the eye. She also has pretty big bazongas on display, if that's your thing as well. It's something we don't get too much nowadays in Jump, but her character design is very attractive, and I think that is displayed well here. As for the background, we have some actual illustration work done with, I think, a kind of gate and then some hanging lanterns, which is evocative of its setting. Another thing I really like is you have this kind of turquoise mint smoke effect kind of drifting around, giving it a spiritual vibe, which is appropriate again for the series. The typography used kind of more traditional, like the earlier elusive samurai poster, or maybe more evocative of older Chinese works potentially. I do like how you have some of the text at the middle bottom there in purple, and it's in these circles, almost like they've been sealed. Maybe there is some kind of appropriate word for what has been done there, or why they're like that, but to me it does evoke spirits being sealed away or something. Color-wise, this is a really nice one too. The green, purple, red, it all melds together very harmoniously. It's not a super bright cover, although there are some bright elements with some red and yellow, but it's being used in moderation, and it's in specific areas, the bottom, some in the middle and the top, in I guess a symmetrical way. Where it works, you can see the main focal point of the characters and also feel its general color and vibe, and it doesn't take away too much from it. I think I have to give this one an A. If you know me, I'm again super biased, but it is a really lovely cover. The next of this batch of 4 debuts is Ekiden Bros, the Ekiden marathon racing manga. So we have the characters all running in a line, very appropriate considering the sport being played, which is a relay kind of race. I do like how we have the flags in the background too, so we have more than just a nondescript kind of colored background. There is something going on here. Of course, we have some kind of dynamic shot here. We have the momentum of them running, so we have some speed lines. Everything is gradually pushing inwards to the point in the center. Pretty common for a lot of these covers, but some sell it more than others. The typography of Ekiden Bros as well I really like. Reminds me of maybe like the initial D logo or something, with how it's red, it's very striking, and you have the kind of natural lines from it conveying motion. The colors used here are pretty numerous, but they all work together, kind of yellow, red, white, orange. They then contrast with the lighter blue. It does look nice overall. Definitely isn't the most striking thing ever, but it is solid enough where I would probably give it a B actually. Like, not even taking the series into account, I think it's quite nice. It kind of conveys what the manga is going to be, and it's pretty pleasant to actually look at. Moving on to issue 32, we have the Ping Pong Peril cover. Similarly to the last one, the sports one, we have the sport being shown, although it does so in a way that evokes that it's a bit more fantastical maybe. It's going to be a bit different. The ping pong ball is glowing. There is shininess to everything here. Money is falling down. There's a gold border around everything. So you know money is going to be important for this series. I also like the way they've integrated the series features by also making them little banknotes that are falling down as well through their shape. That's pretty cool as well. The illustrations of the characters are pretty nice. There's some very nice hand drawing here as well. Really like how they've drawn them. Well drawn hands, the nails in particular. I just kind of like how they've been drawn and rendered there. The expressions on the characters are fun too. It is a shiny, fun cover, and I think I'd give it a B as well. Moving on to issue 33, we kind of have a more summary cover for the middle of the year. Sakamoto Days takes the cover with Sakamoto with some water guns. Pretty fun. We are joined by Shin and the sniper character, I forget his name at this moment. Everyone's wearing some nice patterned kind of Hawaiian style overshirts, which are really, really nice. I like how different they are, and the green stands out well with the blue of the background. The summer sky, the palm trees in the background, the water, everything's been well considered here. The typography as well adds two things as well. It's bubbly, it's colorful. The Sakamoto Days logo redesign there with the more summery focus is quite cool too. It's tropical, the orange, the yellow, the green. It is selling its vibe quite well. I don't think I love it as much as some of the other covers earlier on in the year, but it's a very fun cover that nails its idea quite succinctly. So with all of that being said, I think we give this one another B. For issue 34, we have One Piece again, giving us a look at all of Luffy's different gears. I think that's pretty cool, doing the numbers and showing the kind of different gears within them with slightly different colors. A lot of red going on, it's a lot of crackling. Though Luffy's pose overall is just pretty bland. He has a hand in his pocket, which I find very odd. Would Luffy really put a hand in his pocket and just kind of put his hand back like that. It kind of feels odd to me. Maybe that's a weird thing too, but focus on. In general, though, the pose just doesn't really say much to me. It is just kind of Luffy. The gear idea is quite cool, but that's kind of it. That's the coolest part about this cover. Yeah, the crackling lightning effects are okay. How they've done the background with the kind of gradient, there's kind of some darker red smokiness and some screen tone. It looks okay, but it is extremely red, aggressively red, I would say. It doesn't have as much harmony as some of the other covers we've had this year, and it doesn't have the color variety of others. Maybe there's something I'm missing about this one, but it feels a bit lackluster for a One Piece cover to me, so I'm gonna give it a C. Moving on to issue 35, we have the Hime 10 first anniversary cover, which has all of the characters there in front of a school chalkboard, which is always a really fun design for some of these covers that they'll do now and again if they're set in school. One thing I do really like is just how the Shonen Jump logo has been integrated here. It is in the same position as usual, but because of just how they've situated the chalkboard, it feels quite different too. With some of the effects, like it's been chalked on. They could have gone a tad bit further maybe, but I know they want that logo to be recognizable, but I really like the effort they've gone into integrating that. I think it's very cool. Then you have some background stuff has been done in the chalk as well, very fun. The Hime 10 logo is very artsy looking, like it's been painted on too. It's a shame then that the featured series don't quite feel as integrated. I feel like something could have been done with them. There's also a lot of featured things on this cover with Kagurabachi and Ichi in the top right there, and the bottom left we have some of this One Piece sticker collection stuff, which is cramming things up a bit. I guess they don't trust Hime 10 to sell the magazine on its own, which makes some sense. Not the most popular series in the magazine by any margin. The character illustrations are fine. I think they're nice enough. They're definitely not winning me over though. They're just kind of okay. So overall, where do I put this? There's some cleverness being done. It's okay. The main illustration could be a bit better, I guess. I think the chalk background really sells it, but does it sell it enough? You can tell I don't have these written down in advance. I'm kind of going off the cuff. I think I'm gonna give it a C, maybe on the higher end. It doesn't quite reach the level of some of the other B level covers. I think it could have taken things further or given us a better set of illustrations for these characters. Moving on to issue 36-37, one of the biggest surprises of the year, we have the Pokemon collaboration group cover. Something I never thought would really happen, to be honest, and it was such a fun surprise when it did. I'm just going to say it outright, this is already an A just from the concept alone, and I think it was executed quite well. The initial cover only has a few characters on though. It has Luffy, Sakamoto, Chinatsu, Ichi and Chihiro with their chosen Pokemon. I understand why it's just those ones on the main cover, because they also are accompanied by a Pokemon of choice, so double the number of characters. If you did every single character, it would end up being super duper cluttered, but what they've actually done is this issue has I believe a poster fold out with the rest of the cast of Jump, each with their own Pokemon too, so we can have a look at the full proper cover, I guess. Perhaps this is a bit cheating, but just looking at this, it's amazing to see all of the characters of Weekly Shonen Jump with a Pokemon of choice. I also think each artist drew their own Pokemon too. There are a few that look very well drawn, and they might not be in the art style. Like the Clefairy looks not too witch-watchy to me. I'm not sure if Shinohara actually drew that Clefairy. He could have for sure, but I don't want to outright say every single one of these Pokemon was drawn by their respective artists. But some of them definitely were, which I think is very cool. I think specifically the ones on the cover definitely feel like they were drawn by the artists. The Pikachu, for instance, is definitely Oda's drawing, which it's sick to see an official Oda Pikachu. Very interesting. It's also color-wise just very harmonious again. Colorful, you have red, green, yellow, kind of blue, and it's segmented by all these lines and zigzags, but it looks really nice. All the characters are drawn really nicely too in various poses. I could go on and on about each character and their individual Pokemon as well, like why that choice matters, why it's interesting, from Himeten's Pokemon of choice being a Rotom, water mode, Rotom connecting to house cleaning and housework and embodying different machines, Himeten being about cleaning. That makes a lot of sense. And then some of them are just cool, like Roboco has like Blaziken. What did they do with Pokemon now? The super version, I've completely forgotten. I haven't played many of the main Pokemon games. Like, yeah, of course Roboco would pick like an extremely cool looking Pokemon. I think they were slightly constrained by whatever Pokemon were available in the new Legends Z2A game, because I assume this has a big feature on that. But yeah, conceptually, just as a thing, a Pokemon Shonen Jump cover is extremely cool and fun. It gets an A tier. Like, come on, this is so cool. Let me know in the comments, what is your favorite duo of all of these? What Shonen Jump character and Pokemon do you like the most? As for me, I'm not sure I could decide in all honesty, though I do really like Chihiro and Tepig. I think is a very fun one. Oh, and one more thing before we move on, I've actually noticed the typography on the side has elemental effects woven into its kanji katakana there. Very, very fun stuff going on here. Moving on, we have issue 38, which is Akane Banashi's TV announcement. This one is extremely colourful, but in a way that works. It has its turquoise, pinks, purples, yellows, reds. Very nice, very harmonious. Again, I'm saying a lot of the same words. And this does tend to happen when you talk about 48 different illustrations and covers. The way the TV has been announced with a little kind of paper flap thing, I'm not quite sure what they are, but it feels very appropriate for Akane. I also like how integrated this is in the Rakugo kind of sphere. You see Akane's microphone, you see some of the kind of ground and cushion she's sitting on there too. The paper lanterns in the background, it puts you into the space she's in. It also has a neat layout, a bit like the Elusive Samurai cover, but not as much, where instead this is sloping from downward left to upward right. I think that's interesting because it's less center on. It makes this cover stand out when you look at all of them together. It also helps we kind of have the pattern facing in that direction at the top as well. The typography used feels very appropriate. I really like the fan with the text on the left there. That's really cool. Akane's illustration as well is a lot of fun. Again, she's there open mouthed, kind of staring with her teeth showing. That's pretty typical for her. And I think it sells her personality quite well. This is a really, really nice cover. Again, I would probably not quite rank it up with the best of the year, but I would give it a super solid B. Moving on, we have issue 39, another Ichi the Witch cover, this time for its first anniversary. We have Discaris and Ichi on the cover, both holding up one finger for their first anniversary. They're wearing some of their cooler battle clothes, I think. Maybe Discaris is slightly more blinged up than usual, which tends to be the case of first anniversaries. They're a bit more extravagant, makes sense. There's a bit more gold going on here, especially in the Shonen Jump title. I like how that gold is a bit of everywhere. It's in the characters' designs, it's in the kind of gold embroidery, the one logo, some of the typography, it's bordering the featured series too. There is a lot of sparklies, which is appropriate for Ichi, and you have its kind of original blue, purple, pinky kind of colors going on too in parts. I don't think this is quite as strong as some of the other Ichi covers though. The energy isn't quite there, the magic and majesty that some of the other characters have. This is a lot more focused on the celebration, and while I do like the illustration of the two, there are other Ichi illustrations on covers I like a lot more, even if Discaris is a bit less present. Sorry Discaris. So I'm gonna give this one a B. Again, really, really good one though. Moving on to issue 40, we have Shinobi Undercover's first year anniversary cover. Congratulations Shinobi as well. This one's actually really, really nice. Having its kind of home color palette, Shinobi has this more purple way of drawing things. That sounds really off. It tends to focus on cooler colors, I think. The way a lot of shading is done, I think, is slightly more on the blue end. It's more purpley. It likes to use colors like navies, blues, purples. You've got the turquoise there. And then it will contrast that with the yellow smoke, which it does here really, really well. A lot of characters are on display in the background. They kind of meld in quite seamlessly with the main character there looking coolest of all. It sells the fun of the series, the kind of youthful energy of the series as well. The way they're placed as well kind of feels like you're going from one to the other, kind of hopping. I kind of like that effect it has. It gives it a sense of movement, like they're jumping through the smoke as well. The colors used, as I mentioned, they work for Shinobi, and then it's been combined with the red of the typography. The typography overall, I think, is nice. It suits the series. The featured series are in little flowers. I think Akane had something similar as well. I don't know how appropriate that is to the series. It might be like a logo or something. The kunai, no, the shuriken, not kunai. The shuriken kind of everywhere I like as well. I do wonder if maybe they should have put the other series in the shuriken. That could have been cool. But yeah, this is a really, really nice cover. Again, great first anniversary, good illustrations, nice color. I like the way it's all been composed too. I would give this one another solid B. I think for any massive Shinobi fans, possibly could reach an A, but yeah, B. We've had some really good covers this year. My expectations are heavily skewed to the beginning where we had all of those amazing covers. Then for issue 41, we have the debut for Jujutsu Kaisen Modulo. I really like Iwasaki's artwork generally. Something about this one feels a lot more mature and doesn't quite have the funness I actually love about his illustrations. There's a bit more Gege to this, I guess. It does feel like he has incorporated elements of Gege's art style well into his own. It conveys a seriousness too, which I do like. You have the kind of Tsurugi with the sword, Yuka kind of frowning there, clawed hands, and then Maru holding the earth. It does convey that this might be more science fiction perhaps, or maybe that the earth is at stake. There's some other little details like the ring is being shown there too. The stars in the sky in the background could also hint at the sci-fi origins of the series. I think maybe that's what I'd like more from this cover is I wish it was maybe a bit more sci-fi. I hope we get another modulo cover at some point. I think it would be really interesting to have something cool, sci-fi, space themed. I'm not sure this goes hard enough with that angle, but maybe they didn't want to spoil some of the bigger reveals surrounding the series. The colors are also a bit everywhere. There's a lot going on. It's not incongruous. It's not too messy, but that there could be a greater focus on trying to make things connect a bit more. Like the One Piece cover with Zoro and Loki, I do like that each character kind of has their own color, and that's been represented, though it doesn't quite feel as well connected as that prior cover. I do like how they have split the Tsurugi and Yuka from Maru though. That can signify a divide between these characters. There are differences between them, which is a core part of the series of the differences between us and how we can coexist. So that's pretty smart, perhaps a bit of an over-analysis. Overall, it's a nice cover. I kind of have my issues. I feel like it could be much better, and that's me coming from a place where I'm a fan of the series, but also especially Iwasaki's artwork. So I'm going to give this one a C. Then we have our next debut cover for issue 42, which is Someone Hurts. This is a really, really nice cover. First off, color-wise, it is immaculate. It balances the kind of red and blue really well, and it conveys a sleepiness with its darker blue, I think. Helped by the small, all it is in the background is small white blocks conveying a sense that it is a building complex at night. It's so simple, but it feels sleepy. You get the sense it's night. You have some sparkles at the top. I don't think they're necessarily meant to be stars, although they kind of evoke that. It also has just some of the little flourishes they do, the little lightning symbols on the earphones of both characters, and some of the screen tone usage in the lower background, mid background, and on the characters as well. It gives this a pop feeling. This is something more modern, more youthful. In a way, it actually reminds me of Hisashi Eguchi's artwork, some of his older stuff. Maybe I like how blocked out the colors are as well. And you also have, so you have the red and the blue, but also the yellow. It makes things like the radio stand out, and it just looks nice. You have some nice, the typography also works with that as well. I think at its core, it works too because the illustrations of Mime and Kurage, they're very well done. They're cute. The style is allowed to breathe. It feels different, and the colors work with it well, leading to this being a really strong debut cover. I think it makes you intrigued about the series. It shows you a lot of what the series is about through its use of the radio being there. They have the headphones on. They make it obvious they're listening to something. There is a modernness to it, a cuteness to it, and it's going to be about these two characters. I feel like I've given a bit less analysis for this one, but there is something about it that stands out to me that I really, really like. It's the mix of the character illustrations and the colors overall that makes me want to give this one an A tier. Moving on to issue 43, we have this amazing Sakamoto Days cover. There's something about the usage of colors, the shattered glass, Usui reflected in the gun, and the way this is painted, which is just very fun. It's kind of abstract, it's very artistic. The colors are everywhere, but they feel very well considered. There's a sketchy quality to this which I really like, which you don't always see in covers. They tend to make them look quite nice, uniform, and professional feeling, if that makes sense. But this one has a chaoticness, which is really nice. I guess it's reflective of the series too, although Sakamoto Days doesn't feel nearly this evocative or artistic in its chapters. As a cover though, this is just brilliant. The way the Jump logo is as well, with the black with the white outline, is a nice contrast to all of the colors and goings on of the rest of the cover too. Another thing I really like is how the featured series are also in the shards of glass. I'm always a sucker for whenever they do that. That's a lot of fun. This one, I don't think I need to say much more about it. It is another A tier. It is just a fantastic tour de force of color and energy. I think a lot of people are going to like this one. For issue 44, we have another One Piece cover, and admittedly, I think there are things going over my head here. It is relating to the moon and to rabbits. They definitely have a connection, potentially with like Princess Kaguya, I think, and some old traditions. They're making something which might be mochi. Something is lost for me here, but I have a vague notion of it is going for something, and I kind of appreciate it. The colors used as well are quite nice in the background. They're soothing, kind of blues and purples. That kind of melds into some of the text. I really like the text specifically, kind of where the hammer is coming down with the mochi, where they have their kind of screen tone, the different colors. It feels quite someone's Hertzy actually. The One Piece logo could be a bit better maybe. There are a lot of colors going on, but I feel like if they maybe made that the same kind of idea as the kind of middle color scheme, that could work, or maybe just kept it to just solid yellow or solid orange. Not entirely sure. Something about the colors used overall it's nice, but it doesn't all fully meld together. It's another cute One Piece cover. I don't want to dock it like too much because I'm just unfamiliar with what it's going for, but it just doesn't hit like some of the other covers of this year, so I'm gonna give it a C. Moving on to issue 45, we have the Kagurabachi 2nd anniversary cover, and we have our boys in suits looking really, really cool. I adore this cover. It's great. First off, let's look at the background. We have a number of flowers drawn in different ways there. A lot of roses, I think. I'm not entirely sure, they could be different. But you have colored in ones, you have white and red, and then you just have kind of sketched ones as well. It gives the background a very interesting pattern texture that feels, I guess, appropriate to an anniversary. I can imagine you getting some kind of cloth or kimono or fabric related to a special event or anniversary that this reminds me of. Perhaps the flowers actually have some kind of meaning I'm unaware of. The yellow as well, I think, works really well as a nice complementary color to all the red, as well as the black and white that's being thrown around here too. It gives this Kagurabachi cover a bit more. There's a less aggressiveness to the usual black, white, red dynamic it has, and it's a less action-focused cover. It's more focused on being a celebration again, but it does so in a bit of a different way to the other anniversary covers we've had this year so far. The illustrations for both of Hakuri and Chihiro are just brilliant. I just really like them kind of doing their suits up. They're going towards an event, to something. It's conveyed really well, and I'm just happy to see these characters drawn. The typography is really nice. Don't really have much to say. It feels appropriate to the series. I do like how the Kagurabachi in the center, again, is splitting them apart, but there is like this slash between it, like it's being cut by a sword. Not sure if that is kind of true to every time the logo is being drawn, but I especially noticed it here, and I think it looks really, really cool. This is another one I really like. I think it's really well laid out. The colors are nice. The core illustration is really strong. I'm definitely giving this one another A. Moving on to issue 46, where we have another Elusive Samurai cover, which isn't quite as good as the earlier one of the year. We have Takayuki here, kind of in full display with his armor on. He has a sword behind his back and he's holding a peacock feather, I think, which seems to be the focus of this cover, is the peacock feathers, the kind of, I guess, regality of it, the color of it, them being, I don't know, birds. Yeah, I was going to say something about peacocks running away, but I don't know how fast they are or anything. The actual feathers in the background I really like. I like how it's just being drawn. You also have the feather effect kind of at the bottom of feathers kind of dropping, potentially equating him with a more angelic figure as well. Maybe there's some symbolism I'm missing in regards to peacocks, but I do think it kind of fits Takayuki. It does make sense for it to be an animal he's associated with. The colors overall are a bit everywhere. They are quite pleasant though, so I'm not going to rag on it too much. I don't like how the typography has been colored in the bottom though. It's just kind of odd the way it's been faded, but there's blocky colors within the red. It just doesn't do much for me at all. The illustration isn't quite as strong as the original Samurai one earlier in the year as well. I don't think it says too much about his posing or what he's doing either, so I'm gonna give this one a C, I think. Then for issue 47, we have another Ichi the Witch cover, which is more focused on Ichi's face here. The magical effects of different colors, like kind of dancing about, I do really like. There's a really cool wispy nature there, which also extends to the typography of how Ichi the Witch has kind of been laid out there, how it's kind of just, you have the line work with some of it being filled in and some of it's in colors. I really like how that's been done. Ichi's eyes as well are a big focal point here. They're quite nice, they're sparkly, I really like them. The feature series have been pushed over to the side, so there's not really a focus on doing something with them this time. And couple that with the illustration just focusing on Ichi's face there, his bust really. This one is a bit of a boring cover. I do like some of the aspects of it, but it really doesn't stand out amongst the other Ichi the Witch covers we've had this year, so I'm gonna give this one a C. Then we go to our final new debuts of the year with issue 48, Gonron Egg. I am a Gonron fan. You might think whatever you want with that, but I do like the art style, so I'm definitely going to praise that here. I like how Gonron's been drawn. I like how Oma is popping out of his hand. The egg is cracking. Kind of shows you who the main characters are, and that there is an egg, I guess. The typography for Gonron's egg I think is really cool as well. It has the egg within it, which is very fun. The kind of yellow border around the black, and it's this chunky, kind of craggy typography. The actual font, I think that fits the series and its setting quite well. And then you have this twisted, circularly spiral kind of pattern within it, which I think is kind of reflective of how some of the plant life in Gonron looks, so I like that too. The behind the scenes of what's going on though is a bit much. It's kind of just all over the place with exploding red and blue and white, black, spray painted. This doesn't look great. I don't think it really is fitting of Gonron's aesthetic in general or its setting. Nothing says this is post-apocalypse or fantasy or anything. It is just a little random, sadly. The colors aren't very harmonious. I think a better job could have been done here. To the extent where I might give this one a D. I'm sorry, Gonron. I do really like your art overall, but something about this cover just doesn't. I feel like it could be way better, and it was slightly mishandled color-wise. Next up we have issue 49 with the debut of Tonari no Asagawa, or The Mage Next Door. This actually reminds me of covers from last year, I think, where they were extremely colorful. They like to do tons of shit in the background with speed lines and different tones, screen tones. There was a focus on kind of yellow, pink, and green. And if you did watch that video, I think I said multiple times I wasn't a fan. This one, if it was up against the last year's covers, I might put this in higher regard. I think the chaoticness fits Osegawa kind of in what he's doing with all of the shopping. It's going all over the place. That said, I'm not entirely sure, like, I don't know how well this sells the series. I guess the shopping makes it feel like it's a mix of magic and day-to-day life. I guess that kind of fits the initial idea of Osegawa, him using the everyday in his magic to combat other mages. So yeah, I kind of get why it was drawn that way, I think. But something about it, I don't know, it just doesn't... The connection, I feel, is slightly weak. In a way, I feel like the grocery bag imagery would fit the next series we're going to discuss a lot more. The illustration of Osegawa as well, I don't think is the best ever. He doesn't look super chill there, he kind of just looks slightly peeved instead of how he usually would look. The effect of the magic I do like though, like the little sparkle on the top of the wand, that's pretty cool. This isn't a great cover though. I'm not a super big fan, and I remember seeing this and being kind of like, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about this. It kind of impacted my initial impressions slightly negatively. Of course, that doesn't really change how I think about a series in a major way. Its first cover image. I'm not gonna kind of kill a series based on that by any means. The red bordering of the red title at the bottom, red Shonen Jump logo, I do like as well. I do really like the just simple red typography with the white outline for the bottom. I think that works quite well. Just very simple, very nice. So with everything being said, I think maybe I'm going to be mean. I'm going to give this one a D too. If Gonran gets a D, I think Osegawa gets a D here as well. Then we move on to Hero Girl and Demon Lord Call It Quits. So, about how the grocery shopping theme would work a bit better here. I would love to see that, I think, melded with this cover, although we do have the Demon Lord with the ladle. What this is conveying is you have the hero with a sword, and then you have this kind of more demonic, monstrous figure with the ladle. I think that sells the dynamic a bit. Could be a bit better, but it is there. The hero girl looks pretty cute with her pink hair. I think the contrast is quite good with the Demon Lord, though from seeing the other series' color pages and just the series in general, I do feel like something better could have been attempted maybe. Some kind of more rapport between the two, maybe them facing each other a bit more, or some more wackiness could be shown off in some way. There is something about this which I don't think reaches the full potential of what the series is actually exploring. The actual composition of the general cover, I think, is kind of interesting because there is a big left focus on text that makes it feel a bit different, which isn't a good or bad thing at all. It's just kind of interesting. Difference in typography is kind of all over the place. The logo is very different to some of the other text, which is more pixelated, kind of evoking the video gamey origins of the Demon Lord and Hero. And then you have this more bubbly, colorful text, kind of, which is gold and shiny. The background then is also kind of very mixed and swirly magically, but not in a very congruous way. It's a little all over the place, though it's not the most messy cover we've had this year. I think it is better than both Gonran and Osegawa's covers, so I'm gonna give this one a C. But again, I feel like this could have been much better than it actually is. For issue 51, we have a Witch Watch cover, which gives us a bit of a better look at kind of how magical covers can be. I think the colors are a bit more consistent. There is quite a lot going on, though, with different speed lines and sparklies going on. What makes this cover really fun, though, is how each character is depicted. So Nico is back to her full usual adult self or older teen self. Her pose is really cool where she's using magic. The light on her, I think, is well drawn, it's well rendered. And then you have the other characters who are just a joy, depicting various spells from throughout the series. I didn't notice like the background. You have Ban as well. On first glance, I never saw her. I just saw the other four in their various kind of chibi funny spell incarnations. So that's cool. There's some nice little details here with the characters. I think Witch Watch is really good at depicting its characters on its covers in some fun ways. Not the biggest, I guess, I wouldn't say I hate the color choices or just how things have been integrated, but I feel like maybe the red, white, yellow Shonen Jump logo could be changed to something else. Maybe it could also be a rainbow or a more purpley color. That might have made this feel a little more strong and unique looking, although the Rainbow Witch Watch logo I do really like. This is pretty solid overall though. I think we have had a run of some not as good covers towards the end of the year, but this one is a really solid B cover for me. And to end the year off, we have One Piece with issue 52. This is a pretty standard one, to be honest. It has One Piece's usual red-yellow color scheme, which is also Jump's kind of red-yellow is kind of the usual. We have some black. Do you like the map element in the background at the top right there? I think that's pretty cool, evocative of pirate stories. We also have the split of Roger, Garp, and Rox, just showing what characters are kind of going on in the current arc with the flashback. They're well illustrated, I guess. They've been segmented with text, which is always a fun and clever thing to do, although it's nothing super unique, I feel. This cover in particular doesn't do anything super duper special. The illustrations are fine, they're fun. Luffy punching his hand looks okay. The colors don't really speak to me at all. The One Piece logo, kind of slightly decolored rainbowy, looks fine. I think we're gonna end the year with a C. It's okay. It's kind of solid. So overall, was this a good year for Shonen Jump covers? I think so. It was pretty fun, especially earlier on in the year. We just had back-to-back really strong covers with good artwork. Maybe I was a bit too generous at the beginning, but I really do believe, I think, the early covers of the year were really strong, and that was something I noticed when I was doing my cover video for last year. A couple of the covers had already come out, and it was just like, wow, next year's gonna be really good. And I think it did turn out to be really good overall. Later on in the year, the covers kind of dipped, but we have some really good ones. So what are my favorites? Kagurabachi had a great year for covers, with issue 1 and issue 45 being major standouts. They were really strong. Some of my favorite covers of the year for sure. Group covers also were great this year, with issue 45 being very cute, issue 6-7 being very imposing, a good cover to start the year with. It had good colors and it had some kind of funny elements with the Roboco. And then of course we have the Gamer cover, which is a ton of fun too, and the Pokemon collab cover. Like, all 4 of those were excellent. Really great year for being on a group cover. For some of the new debuts as well, we had some great covers. Kaidegami specifically, I really liked, and Someone's Hurts. Very good kind of starting covers there. Sakamoto Days also surprised me with some really strong ones. Issue 43 in particular, with all of its colors, was very evocative. And then I think Ichi as well had some kind of banger covers. The issue 3 of the year was really good, as well as issue 27. They really sell the magic that Ichi has. I also, I think, want to shout out the Elusive Samurai color for issue 9. There was something very unique about that cover amongst all of them in the year. It had a more solemn, soft vibe. I really like how the wisteria were integrated, and just the general flow of that cover was very different to the others of the year. And with that covered, we've done it. We've gone through every single cover from Shonen Jump in the year of 2025, or its batch of issues in the year of 2025. It was a fun year for covers, I think. And as always, let me know what you thought of the covers. Which ones do you like? Of course, they're gonna be different because this is extremely subjective. You might like some of the covers I didn't like, or maybe you agree with me. Please let me know some of your favorites down below, and what your opinion on the covers of the entire year was. Do you think it was a good year for covers? Do you think we started really strong and then kind of dipped towards the end of the year? What do you think? If you want more videos on Shonen Jump, please subscribe to the channel. I do them a lot. I should be putting out a video soon focusing on my best or favorite chapters of the year for Jump. I'm going through each issue again, but picking like my favorite chapter for each issue. So if you are a fan of Jump and read the magazine regularly, you'll probably like that as well. I also have tons of other videos on the magazine, like in my History of Shonen Jump series, where I look through all of the magazine's past series year by year. I've recently hit 1997 where One Piece debuts, which is a very fun thing to talk about, like what the magazine was like when One Piece began. There's also my X-Files series where I approach cancelled manga in some fun, more analytical ways, especially as of recent. So if you remember reading some cancelled manga from Jump, those videos might be worth a watch for nostalgic purposes or to hear an opinion on a manga you might have forgotten about or haven't thought about in a long while. If you really enjoyed this video or others I made, I'd also suggest you check out the Patreon. The support from the Patreons genuinely helps me out a ton, and it lets me make videos with a bit more flexibility too. To give back to everyone who does join the Patreon and who supports me, there's a collection of special Patreon-only videos up there, which is usually sillier things or my first impressions on Shonen Jump series. At any tier you get access to them, you get thanked in the credits, and you get access to polls now and then as well. At the $3 tier and higher, which is the only difference between the tiers, you'll also get a cool little doodle drawn by me to represent you in the credits too, like the following cool people. Thank you, Trinity, Jade, Kazukugairu, Circle Zero, Holly the Apothecary, Mayu, It's Fako, Yellowtail, Lay Sloggett, Chris P. Bacon, Chohenshin, Full Metal, Unquestionable, Yuzakura Psycho, Whizzle, Violent, Cactus, Joni, City Name E, Vino Burrito, Caffeine Dad, Cryonaut, Crash, 41IZ, Hong, Jamie Reynolds, Manu, Poke Emblem, James Miller, Chopa Monkey, Just a Virus, Star Sphinx, PK Broly, Fenrir Black, Elijah Espinoza, Neo Humanoid, Mark Nielsen, Electro Pirate, Jay Vasso, Three Frogs in a Trench Coat, Sir Flash, Gay Shark, Slimy Okra, Gidista, Wavy Sky, TG Talks Manga, John Jerry 722, Andrew, Zenomat, Missile, Terra Elizabeth, Stratomega 13, Dennis Tambik, Jubei, Lise, Frog Dude, Hilltop, Backo Draws, Otaku Gamer X, Deadpan, Shy Monkeys, Jonathan Dragonet, John Sanford, Color, Jaime, Strawberry Prosione, Vaz, Palette, Ruiner, Juice, Kurumi Nox, Eric Gorski, Miss Thishira, Gris Exploder, Dextora, Enya Showo, Cheese, Emmy, Benjamin, Tenmaku Lover, Taifumi Studios, and Ignate. Thank you all so much for being patrons, and as always, thank you so much for watching. Remember to be kind and take care.